And we've got this really fascinating material in front of us that, well, it treats economics almost like a set of physical laws for human behavior.
Exactly. It's less about policy and more about a toolkit for solving mysteries.
Right, mysteries you see every day, like the sources mention a time when orange soda was more expensive than gasoline, or the classic one, why popcorn costs so much at the movies.
And beneath all that apparent chaos is this deep consistency. And it all rests on really just two foundational principles.
Bummer.
First, the incredible power of incentives, what makes us act. And second, this stubborn assumption economists make about human rationality.
That even when we do something that looks strange, there's a reason for it.
There's a hidden purpose.
Mm.
So our mission today is to use those two ideas to decode your world. We're going to unpack this material, debunk a few myths, and see how it all plays out in the real world,
Yeah.
often with pretty surprising results.
Let's do it. Where do we start?
We have to start with the central axiom, the 4 words that basically sum up the entire field. People respond to incentives.
I mean, that sounds almost too obvious, right? Of course they do.
It does, but the economists' faith in it
Yeah.
is, well, it's absolute. Take the 1970s gasoline crisis.
Yeah.
The government put on price controls to keep gas artificially cheap. And what happened?
Chaos, huge lines at every gas station, shortages.
Because the price was too low, there was no incentive to conserve, so people they bought as much as they could get.
You're absolutely right. They distorted the whole market.
And the very moment those controls were lifted and the price went up,
The lines disappeared.
vanished. The higher price became the incentive. The market cleared. It's that predictable.
Okay, but this is where the material gets really counterintuitive. When you apply that same logic to life and death, specifically car safety.
Ah, yes, Ralph Nader. Unsafe at any speed.
Exactly. His work led to federal mandates for seatbelts, padded dashboards, all of that. Common sense says safer cars mean fewer dead drivers.
But an economist looks at the incentives. What's the
Yeah.
incentive to drive carefully?
Well, not dying.
Right. So if you make the consequence of an accident less severe, you reduce the incentive for cautious driving. The prediction was pretty stark,
That making cars safer would lead to more accidents.
or at least more reckless driving. You're compensating for the added safety. It's called risk compensation. An economist named Sam Peltzman studied this back in the mid-70s.
And what did he find?
He found that the two effects, the reduced risk per accident from the new safety gear and the increased recklessness from the drivers, they basically canceled each other out.
Hey, are you serious? So the regulations didn't save any net driver lives?
That was his staggering conclusion. The total number of driver deaths stayed pretty much the same. They traded the extra safety for more speed.
But there's a tragic side effect in here, isn't there? If the driver feels safer and drives more recklessly, what about everyone outside the car?
Pedestrians. They got zero benefit from the seatbelts, but they were exposed to all of the new reckless driving. And Peltzman's data showed a clear increase in pedestrian deaths.
Yeah.
It's a perfect, if tragic, example of unintended consequences. Incentives are everywhere.
It almost sounds like a biological law. I mean, the material pushes this even further, right? Beyond humans.
Oh, absolutely. They mentioned these wild experiments with rats and pigeons.
I remember reading that.
They gave them incomes, like a certain number of lever pushes to buy things like root beer or cheese at different prices.
And they acted like tiny consumers.
Perfectly rational ones.
Wow.
When the price of root beer went up, they bought less of it. They responded to price changes, income changes. The same basic principles that guide your shopping choices were guiding a pigeon's choice of beverage. Incentives matter. Full stop.
Okay, so that's incentives. But what about when behavior just seems completely irrational? That brings us to that second big principle, doesn't it?
The assumption of rationality. The idea that if something looks foolish, you're probably just missing a piece of the puzzle. You don't understand the real incentives at play.
And the classic test for this is the popcorn riddle.
The $8 movie theater popcorn.
The simple answer is, well, they have a monopoly. Once you're inside, they can charge whatever they want.
Which, it's just not a good enough explanation. If they have a monopoly over you once you're in the door, why not charge $8 to use the bathroom? Or just add $5 to the ticket price? That's a much cleaner way to use monopoly power.
So there has to be another reason, a more rational reason for the high popcorn price.
And there is. It's a mechanism for price discrimination.
Meaning they're trying to charge different people different amounts.
Precisely. The person who absolutely loves popcorn, who sees it as essential to the movie experience, that person values the whole evening much more highly than someone who never buys snacks.
Ah, so the expensive popcorn is like a secret tax on the biggest movie fans?
It's a self-selection tool. It screens the customers. The high price filters out the people who are only willing to pay the base ticket price, while letting the theater capture way more money from the high-value customers. The popcorn itself isn't the point. It's a tool to figure out who is willing to pay the most overall.
That completely flips the script. It's not about the corn, it's about identifying the superfan.
And that drive to find a rational purpose is everywhere. Like, why do so many things cost $2.99 instead of $3?
The old answer is psychology, right? My brain sees the two and thinks it's cheaper.
And the economist says, let's look for a reason based on incentives and control. This whole 99-cent thing really took off after the cash register was invented.
Okay.
Think about it. If an item costs $1 and the customer pays with a dollar bill, the clerk can just pocket the cash. No need to open the register, no record of the sale.
Ah, employee theft.
But if the item costs 99 cents, the clerk has to open the drawer to give that 1 cent in change.
And opening the drawer means ringing up the sale?
Exactly. What looks like a psychological trick is actually a clever, rational, anti-theft device.
That's amazing. And this rationality goes way back. The material mentions medieval farming.
Right, the scattered plots of land. It looks so inefficient having to travel between all these tiny fields instead of one big one.
You'd think they'd consolidate.
But it was a perfectly rational form of self-insurance. One big field could be wiped out by a single flood or a swarm of pests.
But if your land is scattered all over the village...
You might lose 1 or 2 plots, but you won't lose everything. You're sacrificing a little bit of efficiency to protect yourself from catastrophic risk. It's a totally rational trade-off.
Okay, so let's shift from individual choices to bigger systems, to public policy and this idea of efficiency.
Right, and when economists say efficiency, they mean something very specific. It's really just cost-benefit analysis. A policy is efficient if the gains to the winners are bigger than the losses to the losers.
And if the losses are bigger, that difference is called a deadweight loss.
A deadweight loss.
Yeah.
It's value that just vanishes into thin air. A transaction that should have happened but didn't because of something like a tax.
Give me an example.
Okay, so you'd happily pay $24 for a shirt that costs $20. You get $4 of what we call a consumer surplus that's real value to you. But if new tax pushes the price to $25, you don't buy it.
And that $4 of value?
Poof, it's gone. It doesn't go to the government. It doesn't go to the store. It just disappears. That's a deadweight loss. And it's why economists tend to dislike most taxes.
Because they distort our choices and destroy value.
Correct. Now, sticking with that logic, we get to one of the most powerful ideas in all this material, the indifference principle.
This one is tricky. It says that long-term gains only go to the owners of resources that are in fixed supply.
Exactly. Not to the people, but to the fixed resource.
So if a new tech boom creates huge demand for, say, software engineers, the engineers don't get rich in the long run. That feels wrong.
Well, in the short run, their wages go up. But software engineering isn't a fixed resource. More people can learn to code. So new people flood into the field, competition increases, and the wages get driven right back down to the point where indifferent between that job and some other similar job.
So the gain has to go to something that can't be easily replicated.
Like a unique piece of land. Or a one-of-a-kind talent, like Clint Eastwood. You can't just make more Clint Eastwoods. If demand for him goes up, he captures all the game.
Okay, the Clean Air Act example in here makes this crystal clear. Grimeyville and Queenstown.
Yep. Grimeyville is dirty, so rents are low. Queenstown is clean, so rents are high. People are indifferent. They can have dirty air and cheap rent, or clean air and expensive rent.
A trade-off.
Right. Now, what happens if Grimeyville passes a law and cleans its air up? It becomes just like Queenstown. Do the renters benefit?
According to this principle, no. Because as soon as the air is clean, landlords can charge more.
Competition drives the rents right up to Queenstown levels. The renters are forced to pay for the clean air with higher rent. They're indifferent again.
So the entire financial benefit of the Clean Air Act goes directly to
the Grimeyville landowners. Their property values just shot through the roof.
Yeah.
It's an invisible transfer of wealth straight to the owners of the fixed resource, the land.
That is a staggering implication for public policy. And this even extends to the courtroom, the Coase Theorem.
Ronald Coase's great insight. He said that as long as people can negotiate easily, the judge's ruling doesn't actually change the outcome of who uses a resource.
It just changes who has to pay whom.
That's the punchline. The resource always ends up in its most valuable use, regardless of the law.
The example here is the doctor who needs quiet versus the candy maker next door who makes a lot of noise.
Dr. Sturgis and the candy maker, Bridgman. So, scenario one, the court rules for the doctor. He gets the legal right to quiet.
But if the candy business is more profitable than the doctor's practice,
The candy maker will just pay the doctor for the right to make noise. He'll offer a price that makes them both better off. The noise continues because that's the more valuable use of the airspace.
and if the court rules for the candy maker instead.
Then the doctor can offer to pay the candy maker for quiet, but only if the value of his quiet practice is greater than the candy maker's profit. Either way, the most profitable or efficient outcome wins. The judge's decision just determines who writes the check.
That's judicial impotence. The free market essentially overrules the judge every time.
Unless transactional costs are too high. If it's a railroad sparking fires on thousands of farms, they can't all negotiate. That's when the judge's ruling really matters. But one-on-one, the market finds the efficient solution.
This has just been a complete dismantling of so much conventional wisdom. We've gone from car accidents to popcorn prices to medieval farming and now the power of the courts.
And the common thread is that behavior that seems weird or random or even emotional. It usually has a deep, rational purpose. Once you really understand the incentives and the hidden information, it's about finding the method in the madness.
Absolutely. So we've seen that people act rationally to maximize their own benefit. But the material ends by pointing out one huge area where this whole model seems to just fall apart.
Right. We can leave our listeners with the one mystery that still gives economists headaches, the paradox of voting.
Why do millions of us bother to vote in a presidential election?
I mean, if you're acting as a purely rational, self-interested individual, your one vote has basically a 0% chance of changing the outcome.
The cost of your time to go and stand in line is real and measurable. The benefit is, mathematically, it's nothing.
So the model says we should all just stay home, but we don't. We don't. And that's the puzzle. It suggests there's some other incentive at play, civic duty, feeling part of a community, something that the traditional model has a very hard time measuring. It's something to think about the next time you step into that voting booth.